Good evening, ladies, gentlemen, and of course, Reptilian. My name's Scyushi, and we are back in some more Trove. And today we're talking about some patch notes. Haha. Now this, of course, will only affect PC players. Gardening 2.0 will come out for console in the summer. That's all they said. So I can't really give you guys a specific date or anything like that. But hopefully when that update comes out for you guys, it means it's going to be bundled with Bomber Royale, which kind of would make sense, to be honest. I know that it's not fair for console players, but in terms of content, Bomber Royale Season 2 didn't really do anything. And I mean, in all honesty, we're never going to see Bomber Royale Season 3. I'll honestly be surprised. I will eat a plate of grass if they end up putting out Bomber Royale Season 2. So anyways, you know, we already talked about this on the PTS server, which means that we don't have to go into 100% detail in today's video. Basically, it's going to be the Gardening 2.0 update, and you know, lots of it's related to the gardening. I'm going to have a tutorial that should have already gone up earlier today that just kind of skims through how the new gardening works, and I'll have an in-depth gardening tutorial either later this week or sometime next week or something like that. So either way, before we get into it, I would very much appreciate if you would hadouken the like button, and let's get right into it. So gardening. Basically, gardening now goes from 250 gardening profession up to 300. The way that basically works, if you don't already know, the professions in this game are literally based off of a point system. So even in rune crafting, you craft 50 things in the newbie tab in order to unlock the dabbler tab. You craft 50 things in the dabbler tab in order to unlock the enthusiast tab, so on and so forth until you have 250 points. You can't just craft 250 things in one tab. You got to keep going to one tier up. So now gardening, which originally had 250, goes up to 300. Let's hop into our portal here, bloop, and here's all the new gardening stuff. So here's the new gardening bench, here's the new 300 tab, blah, 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 blah. They got vegetables, they got alchemy plants, they got bubble pods. There's going to be a new dragon that you can end up getting out of all this, which, where is he? There he is right here. Dragon effigy will work for this guy, thankfully. Otherwise, you get the seeds out of bubble pods. Bubble pods, quite literally, you go out into the adventure world, any biome will do, run over grass for 50 hours. I'd actually recommend you go to Fey Forest. It's probably the best as far as finding grass is concerned, because there's the Moonlight Dungeons, which spawns like 50 grass around it or something like that. Either way, you'll have a rare chance of getting a bubble pod seed. That seed you can only plant down in your cornerstone. It fully grows and matures in like a minute or something like that. You harvest it. You get a bubble pod, which is basically a piñata. You throw it down on the ground, and then you and 8 people, including yourself, will end up getting seeds out of it. That's basically the new gardening in a nutshell, if you don't end up going the route of just crafting all this stuff, which requires concentrated compost. And again, I'll have an in-depth tutorial talking about all this stuff, because it's a bit daunting, man. So the vegetables are also going to end up dealing with the new... Oh, we don't have a vegetable sink yet. That's right, because we got to be able to craft it, which requires us to end up getting all these plants, which we don't have as of right now. I'm recording this video. I'm trying to get this out to you guys as soon as possible. But there's going to be a new food tab by our characters. It's kind of hidden behind my face here. We didn't ask for it, but we got it. Okay. The way that the food works is kind of surprisingly cool, except its utility is pretty useless. You're going to end up rinsing vegetables in the vegetable sink crafting table that you get out of the gardener tab for all these various vegetables. And then certain vegetables you will be able to basically convert into food, and then you can throw it on your food tab. Now, the food itself will end up expiring, so consider it like a temporary stat buff. You put the food on your character, you're going to have that stat that is associated with it, like 0.05% crit chance or whatever it is. It's something ridiculously low. I think it may even be 0.5%, which isn't that bad, but it's not that great. There's one that gives you like jump and stuff like that. So some of them are a little more useful for sure. But the thing that's cool about it is it's stackable. Now, what that means is that if you craft, like, let's say you're crafting a tomato. I don't know what the foods are. Work with me here. Let's say you craft a 99, like a full stack of tomatoes. You can put those on your character, and then you can just forget about it. you'll just have that temporary buff permanently. It means that you gotta keep making tomato plants, obviously, and keep harvesting them and bringing them into your inventory, or buying them off the market, because thankfully most of the gardening stuff is actually tradable. Phew. But you can also, if you're logging out, right click, or just, you know, whatever it's going to be on console when that ends up coming out, you just right click and you can take off any of the excess stacks that you have. However, for the first piece of food that you put on, it's already being consumed, it's already got its timer counting down before it expires, that's going to be stuck in your character. So if you put one piece of food on and then you're like, whoops, I wanted to put this other piece of food on, you have to delete the one that you have equipped prior. But anything further than that, if you have 1 tomato and then 2 tomato, you can take that second tomato off anytime that you want. It's a pretty cool system, and again, is just a permanent temporary buff type of thing. Honestly, it doesn't affect in-game players because the stats that you get out of it suck. So it's only really for like mid-tier players or lower or something. I don't know. It's not really that big a deal. But the bubble pods are going to be pretty cool because you're going to be able to also get plant recipes out of it. And you need plant recipes in order to end up getting the various plants and so on and so forth. A lot of these are tradable as well, the recipes themselves and then the plants themselves. So again, very, very intuitive, very easy. It's not going to be too bad to get to the higher tiers of the gardening. But if you want to do it yourselves vanilla, it's actually pretty bad because let's say for me, I have to craft things in the botanist section. I have to craft 50 plants. So let's say that I gotta craft 50 tater tots because I'm not gonna call them tater tates because I'm not an idiot. But say you gotta craft 50 of them. That means we need a ton of onionito, or onions, let's call them. But onions you craft out of the green thumb tab. Where are they? There they are. And in order to craft onions, you gotta craft the unicorn shard, and that's going to be back down in the gardener tab. So you gotta craft a lot of these to craft a lot of these to craft a lot of these. It's going to be fairly expensive for me to get to this, unless I just end up buying the onions, which, what are these even going for right now? Oh gosh, nobody's even got them. Or maybe they're not tradable. I'm pretty sure they're tradable, but I guess nobody's got them right now, because anyone who's at this tier is probably trying to use them all for themselves or something. I don't know. It's also dead hours, so I could be wrong about that, or maybe they're just not tradable, which would be weird because they were on the test server. So anyways, there's going to be the watering cans. You know, I'll give a quick rundown, basically the way that who cares? You can refer to my other video if you want to know about the gardening and stuff, all right? So I already have a video that talks about gardening very briefly. So let's move on. There's going to be the new dragon again, and, you know, this thing's not going to be too bad. It gives you, what are the stats? 8 to max energy, 5 to jump, 1,000 to max health, and 50 more magic find. That's the real reason that we're going for it, right? There's also going to be a bunch of allies and mounts and stuff like that. This, I guess, is the most important. So these are going to be in the harvesting station. But in order to end up crafting the ally habitats, which basically you plop them down, and then every Trove daily reset, you can end up, these things can end up having a chance of having an ally in them, and you can go and harvest them. The good thing is that you can actually harvest them from other people's club worlds, and it's not going to affect those club worlds, because as far as I know, these are your own instance, like it's client side. So once people start getting these in all the clubs, you can basically just daisy chain from all the clubs every day until you get all the allies out of it. However, again, you have to have gardening 300 in order to end up harvesting them in the first place. And same with the mounts. In order to end up crafting these bad boys, you gotta have bun feed, you gotta have cookie musk. Cookie musk is untradeable, and it's another thing that is going to be very expensive, but the bun feed is out of gardening 300. Cookie musk is going to be out of these new compost boxes, which briefly we'll talk about these. You basically are going to compost. This is the same as a loot collector, but you're going to use this to compost various items and plants and stuff like that in order to end up crafting these compost boxes. So they're going to vary in quality. And you need higher tiers of refuse, which is the resource you get from composting items. But superior refuse is going to end up being very expensive because you need to compost alchemy plants and higher tiered plants and stuff like that. And superior compost boxes are the only way that you can end up getting that cookie musk resource, which is required in order to craft the mounts and some of the other more expensive things like all these allies. It's going to take a long time for us to end up getting all this stuff. And then briefly, I want to mention there is a new plant that we can get out in the world called moonlight bulbs. These will end up expiring if you log out for an hour. Again, refer to my shorter gardening tutorial video that I already ended up putting out earlier today. So there's going to be some new stuff in the store as well. This is one of the best packs that's been added to the game. If you are a new Trove player, I would recommend very highly you use that sign up link down below. Sign up for Trove, because it means that if you end up buying anything out of the store, I will end up making a cut. It helps out my bills as an individual person, and it's really awesome because you're just buying stuff in Trove. If you're a console player, you have months to do this because this update's going to take a while before it comes to you guys. But for PC, this is out now. The Sweet 16 pack is absolutely beautiful. I haven't checked whether or not it's out on the console yet. I'll put text on the screen whether or not it is. But this is an awesome pack. Thank you, GameAgo, for putting this out, because this is $20 to buy every class in the game, including the Vanguard. In order to get the Vanguard, normally you gotta buy it with credit pouches, which is insane for a free-to-play player, or you're a cash shop pay-to-win player like me, and you had to spend $50. Yeah, so $20 for a class like that, especially considering how difficult it is to craft the Vanguard in the first place. Even as a free-to-play player, I'd recommend that you grind nitro, sell it, buy the credit pouches, because they're cheap right now, because credit pouches are you buy one credit pouch, you get the second one free type of deal. But on top of the event's going on right now, so credit pouches are extremely cheap. Or the new gardening event, I should say. It's not an event, but you guys know what I mean. Either way, getting the Vanguard, I would still recommend you go the credits way rather than crafting it, because it's just so time-gated and annoying. But this already solves your problem right here, $20 pack. So then, as far as the gardening is concerned, there's going to be these new tractors here. If you absolutely are a free-to-play player and you don't want to drop down any money, I understand that. But I would recommend that you only buy the hydration tractor and the harvesting tractor, because those are the only ones that are going to be actually useful for you. The hydration tractor is the watering tractor. It's going to water all the plants that you walk over, which is really easy. I would recommend that this is the first one that you go for, because it's probably going to end up being the most, cost efficient. Because if you have this, you don't actually have to craft any watering cans from there on out. And then the harvester, quite literally, any of the plants that are viable for harvesting will be harvested so long as you're on this mount and walk over all of them. The sower one, I won't recommend that you actually go for if you don't need to. Of course, it's going to be mastery, but it's just going to end up planting seeds behind you so long as you have them selected on your hotbar when you're in your build menu. Which is pretty useless, because as far as this new gardening is concerned, it's pretty meticulous. You have to plant things in very specific paths in order to end up utilizing your watering cans to their fullest. Or there's going to end up being a new tab, a new store item in the deals section, which has disappeared since I already bought it. $20 will end up getting you all of the tractors, which technically is more cost efficient, because these are going to be 3,000 credits each, and 3,000 credits is roughly $20. Again, right now, I guess that would be $10. So maybe it's cheaper to go that route. Not really. Even if you're pay to win for credits, it's still not as cost efficient, because you'd have to buy this like 2 or 3 times in order to end up getting these. So even as a free to play player, it still is valuable to buy the pack for $20, just because otherwise, as a free-to-play player, you're technically grinding $20 worth of credits for each of these. So that's 20, 40, $60, right? But if you're free-to-play, that's perfectly understandable that you would just go for that anyways, because why wouldn't you? There's also a new dungeon layer to the Geo top side. So finally, U10 is going to actually have something new to look at. I wish that would replace that dungeon that we all hate, but it doesn't. And then there's going to be additional updates. So critters in the geode caves became more generous. When you assist them, they have a small chance to provide an egg that can be hatched into their family of pets. So for example, a Gelotl, which is one of the creatures out of the geode area, if you end up helping one of those guys, they'll end up having a chance of giving you an egg that will end up only giving that type of pet. So the geode caves became a little bit easier again. I don't know why they're spending so much attention on it. I mean, I guess it makes sense because honestly, the geode caves kind of sucked, and now they're kind of, you know, you don't really gotta touch them if you don't want to, just because that side of the game is very strange. But at least it's more manageable now, the geode caves. That said, the reason why I say why are they fixing it is so weird is because they've never fixed anything else in the game. Why are they spending so much attention on the cave system when there's so many other things that need attention, like rebalancing the classes, which literally takes like a week of testing on the test server with them tweaking the numbers and getting player responses, right? So anyways, NPC and fishing trophies can now be placed in club worlds and cornerstone, or can now only be placed in club worlds and cornerstones. I guess you could place them out in other areas. The Dragon Crucible has been reorganized, which basically means they made it more annoying because they've changed the Dragon Crucible to it's categorized. Don't you love these devs? They seem to think that this is something better. I mean, I guess it is for new players, arguably, but it definitely makes it look more cluttered, you know? Maybe that's just me. Am I nitpicking here? Let me know in the comments. Maybe I'm too old for this game. You know, I've been playing it since basically alpha. I mean, I was in the closed beta, as it were, but you know, there's quite a lot to it that I don't like those changes. But I mean, I guess it is better for more players. So I improved the drop rate of the bubble dragon egg fragments. So that's the one from fishing. Dragon eggs and dragon egg fragments are now listed resources in their tooltips. Now list their sources, I mean, in their tooltips. So that's really, really nice because it means that we can literally hover over any of these dragons and now it actually says where they're from, which is really, really good. Thank you. Good on you on that one, devs, because otherwise everybody needed my tutorials to know where you get all these dragon fragments. Now you can just hover over them. Jiminy Crockett, it took them long enough to do it, but thankfully it's there, so I can't complain. Crafting materials have had additional information added or reformatted to describe where players can find them. So they've kind of been going through a lot of the resources and actually adding this to them. The description helps a lot, devs, so it's good on them to finally catch up and get with the times, because it's been too long for them to only do it now, you know, especially with Trove not being as popular as it once was. It could have used these fixes a lot earlier. Class gem key fragments can now be crafted with 5 empowered gem fragments at the adventurer's crafting table. Ooh, that's interesting. That's really nice. Really? Wait, class gem key fragments, not the class gem key itself. That's kind of stupid. Huh. So basically, if you end up loot collecting your empowered gems, you end up gaining empowered gem fragments, and you could normally use these to craft yourself stellar empowered gem boxes, and these would guaranteed drop you just random stellar empowered gems, so you wouldn't have to deal with getting radiant ones anymore, which arguably is really, really useful. And probably more useful than using it to craft gem fragments. But at least this way, it means that everybody has the opportunity of getting their class gem. Because that was definitely a problem. It's nice that they have this alternative. That's really nice that they ended up putting that in. This has actually been a pretty good update as far as the additional fixes. So some old tradable chaos chest rares can now be loot collected. They still say deconstructed. Loot collected for 1 chaos core. No thanks. I'm going to keep it and use it as a giveaway or sell it and make profit, because that is ridiculous. Pets no longer have a default 5 glim loot collection value. Whatever. Shadow Tower lobby portals will update over time, not immediately, to point to more recently occupied rooms in the Shadow Tower rather than always pointing to the first room. So I guess what that means, if I'm not mistaken, they're going to have it set up so that when we go into this portal right here, for example, it could potentially take me to the 3rd room because that's where all the players would be? Or are they just saying that the Shadow Tower portal is going to end up resetting to one that's more recent so that we're not constantly dealing with going in portals that are completely empty? I'm not sure. But it says rather than always pointing to the first rooms. So maybe it is quite literally referring to portaling us to further rooms so that we're not trying to play catch up, get to the boss room and find out that they just killed it. That would be a very, very nice change if they did that. So also the following event items that didn't already have them. The following event items that didn't already have them have now had a disclaimer added that they won't last long. Some items already do that, and they've lasted forever. All of these items are planned to be removed with the next update, so use them or lose them. Ooh, they're giving us a deadline now. So there's going to be anything related to the Day Spring token crafting table. So I've already even removed it in Team Pixel just because there's not really any reason to have it there. It confused players. There was basically tokens that we would get for logging into the game that you could exchange for items that would cost a certain amount of the tokens. So it would kind of, you know, force players to log in for the day just to claim that token, then they would just log out, so that you would end up crafting various items. All of those items have since been thrown into Luxian's inventory. So now they're just saying that any of those tokens and any of those items are going to be gone in the next update, which who knows when that's going to be. That means that I should get rid of, where do I have it? Aha, my Hathath's boon. No, the boons aren't being deleted, the tokens are. Well, that's good, because if I had like 1,000 of these, I wouldn't want those to get deleted. I can keep that forever and confuse people. So also the Tentacle Slice, Sub-Zero Snowflake, Crystallized Sunspark, Shadowy Sea, a bunch of other items that were just from events. More recently, we had the Digsley's tokens from the Digsley event, so all of those items, if you haven't already used them, use them. They do say, however, that the Pinata coins will be removed at the end of Sunfest 2019, and Candy Corn will be removed at the end of this year's Shadows Eve. So at least they're being considerate of players for that one, because normally Pinata coins, they've always said were going to be removed. And I guess basically the point is that when the Sunfest comes around, Pinata invaders show up. You know, I'll talk about that when that event actually occurs. But you basically go out into the world, destroy all these idiots, and then you get the Pinata tokens that you can then end up exchanging for various Pinata mounts and stuff like that. So now more than ever, spend all of those Pinata tokens, because otherwise they're going to remove them so that you have to start from scratch next year. I don't know why, but they're going to do that either way. Same with the candy corn from the Shadows Eve event. That was something that originally disappeared as well, if I'm not mistaken. Or no, it didn't disappear. It was just only obtainable during Shadows Eve. So it kind of sucks that they're doing that, because some people really struggle with gaining these resources and might only be able to take advantage of it the following year. I mean, that's a long time for a Trove player to even be playing this game anyways. The average player doesn't last a year. But still, I you know, it's like, no harm, no foul. If there's no reason to get rid of them, why get rid of them? But maybe there's a secret reason for it. So they also added a /club log, no space. What? They specifically say no space for some reason. /club log command to help search for specific club log entries for your primary club. This command will accept a larger number of variables, but here's a few examples. So it's going to do a lot more things, but they use examples here, so you can actually have club log space player space postcard. Postcard is a player, so I don't understand. Oh, I see. So you're telling it the category is a player, and then you put the player's name. I see. So most of these will probably end up being updated in the text area on the Trove wiki, I would assume, which I already have a video that talks about all the Trove commands, the text commands and stuff like that, or all the good ones. But basically, that will end up keeping track of anything that that specific player ended up doing, so we can keep track of griefers a lot easier. There's a way you can track the officer chest, the new plants and stuff like that. So really, really handy for keeping griefing down, because if we're unsure of what player did what, and we're kind of suspect of a specific player, now we can actually quite literally just interview that player with these commands. So it's really, really useful. They also added zone restrict commands to the club logs. I guess that's good, because you could see again if somebody opens up a biome and then destroyed it or something like that. I don't know. The Elysian Cistern can now be loot collected to Chaos Cores, whatever that is. Class helm styles no longer unlock on trial classes, so rip getting that little bit of extra mastery. Cornerstone are damageable by bombs and abilities is now toggled off by default for new players. Thank you, devs, because otherwise you had to sneak in to your settings menu. Was it in the social menu? Is it in the social menu or the video? What menu is this under? Am I not missing it or something? Display name. Oh, it's because it's the miscellaneous tab. I'm an idiot. So Cornerstone damageable by bombs and allies. They're going to default that being off, which is good. It will, if I'm not mistaken, no, bombs and abilities. So it should cancel out the Vanguard's slam down passive ability. And then a couple other things, which is just, or one more thing, quite literally, which is fixed an issue that could cause leaderboards to load empty entries in some spaces. Whatever, who cares? Either way, that's going to do it for the patch notes, everybody. Took a little bit longer than I thought we would, but needed to go into more detail about these things because we didn't talk about them in as much detail as I thought in the test server. Again, most of all this stuff is a huge patch notes. I'll put a link in the description so you guys can read through it if you want, but it's a wall of text, and in all honesty, pretty much all of this wall of text is covered in my video that I did earlier today, which kind of highlights the gardening. Now, that said, I'm going to have an in-depth gardening tutorial video, but that will end up coming out in due time and is going to end up being a little bit lengthier. Either way, I hope that you found this video helpful, and I hope that you enjoyed. If you did, don't forget to Hadouken that like button, subscribe to join the Reptilian Army, and if you want to support me, again, you can always use that sign up link with Trove. I don't know why I'm talking weird. You can use that sign up link with Trove if you're a new player, and then if you buy anything out of the store, I'll end up making a cut of it. Awesome. Or you can end up sponsoring the YouTube channel, which gets you some benefits. You know, there's also my merch, or if you ever catch me doing a live stream, you can use loots. There's a link I have when I'm doing live streams where you basically will send me a message and it just gives me money. It's really crazy and cool. But either way, have yourselves a great day. Sign on. Stay epic, everybody.